The unwanted assignment. My name is Kriltach, and I am a senior negotiator for the Galactic Commerce Guild. For 23 cycles, I have brokered trade agreements, settled territorial disputes, and prevented wars between species who could barely stand to breathe the same atmosphere. I am very good at my job. I am also very good at recognizing when someone is about to ruin everything I have worked for. That someone was Dr. Sarah Chen, and she arrived on Diplomatic Station 7 wearing a smile that immediately made my sensory clusters ache with worry. "You must be Kriltach," she said, extending her hand in that strange human greeting gesture. "I'm really excited to work with you on the Vornathi negotiations." I stared at her hand without taking it. Humans had only joined the galactic community 8 months ago. 8 months. Most species spent decades in observer status before anyone trusted them with actual responsibilities. Yet here stood Dr. Chen, assigned as co-negotiator for the most important trade agreement in 50 years. "With all respect, Dr. Chen," I said, keeping my voice carefully neutral, "the Vornathi situation requires experienced diplomats. These negotiations have been ongoing for 3 years. The cultural sensitivities alone." "I know," she interrupted, and I felt my secondary heart skip in annoyance. Interrupting was considered extremely rude in 70% of galactic cultures. "I've read all the briefing materials. 17,000 pages in 3 days. The Vornathi communicate through layered meaning, their language has 11 grammatical moods, and their social hierarchy is based on chromatic resonance patterns that humans can't even see without special equipment." I blinked all 4 eyes in surprise. That was, actually accurate. "You memorized the briefing documents?" "Memorized, analyzed, and cross-referenced with historical precedents from 42 similar negotiations." She finally lowered her hand, apparently realizing I was not going to shake it. "Look, I know you didn't ask for a human partner. But I'm here, I'm qualified, and I really want to help. Can we at least try?" The first disaster. The Vornathi delegation arrived the next morning. There were 5 of them, their crystalline bodies shifting through colors I could barely perceive. Their leader, Harmonist Vexnal, emanated patterns that my translator chip rendered as cautious optimism mixed with territorial concern. We gathered in Conference Chamber 3, which had been specially configured for Vornathi comfort. The lighting was calibrated to their visual spectrum, the atmosphere was enriched with their preferred gas mixture, and the temperature was precisely regulated to their comfort zone. Dr. Chen walked in wearing a suit covered in small lights. Every Vornathi in the room immediately shifted to deep crimson, the color of alarm and offense. "What is the meaning of this?" Vexnal demanded, their color patterns flashing angrily. "You bring a glowing abomination to negotiations? This is insult. This is mockery." I turned to Dr. Chen in horror. She had somehow managed to offend them within 5 seconds of entering the room. This was worse than my worst projections. But Dr. Chen did not look concerned. Instead, she tapped a control on her wrist, and the lights on her suit began pulsing in complex patterns. The Vornathi fell silent. "Honored Harmonist," Dr. Chen said, and her suit flashed in rhythms that my translator could not quite follow. "I mean no offense. I wear this because I cannot speak your true language with my body alone. I am limited. I am crude. But I am trying." Vexnal's color shifted from crimson to something between purple and gold. You attempt the lesser harmonies? But your form cannot, humans cannot. Cannot see your full spectrum, no, Dr. Chen agreed. Cannot produce the proper resonances naturally, correct. But I can try. I can use tools to bridge the gap between us. Is that not what diplomacy is? Finding ways to connect despite our differences? The room was silent for a long moment. Then Vexnal began pulsing in soft blues and greens, colors that indicated respect and curiosity. "You studied our ways," Vexnal said. "Not just our language, but our meaning." The glowing suit, it attempts to speak what words cannot convey. "It's probably terrible," Dr. Chen admitted. "I've only been learning for 3 days, and I'm sure I'm making mistakes. But I wanted you to know that I see you. Not just as trading partners, but as people with a rich culture that deserves respect. The impossible request. Over the next 6 hours, Dr. Chen did something I had never seen in 2 decades of diplomatic work. She listened. Not the polite listening that diplomats do while planning their next statement. Real listening. Deep listening. The kind that makes speakers feel truly heard. When Vexnal explained the Vornathi position on mining rights, Dr. Chen asked questions that went beyond economics. She wanted to understand why those particular asteroids mattered. What cultural significance they held. How the Vornathi people felt about strangers extracting resources from them. These are not just rocks to us, Vexnal explained, their colors shifting to deep amber, the shade of ancestral memory. When a Vornathi dies, we return to crystalline form. Some choose to drift in space, becoming part of the eternal dance. Those asteroids contain the remnants of our ancestors. To mine them is to disturb the dead. I had known about the mining dispute for 3 years. I had read every report, attended every preliminary meeting, and analyzed every proposal. Not once had anyone explained it like that. Not once had I thought to ask. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What if we didn't mine them at all?" I felt my sensory clusters vibrate in alarm. Dr. Chen, the entire negotiation is about mining rights. That is the foundation of. Hear me out, she said, holding up a hand. The Commonwealth needs rare minerals. You need protection from pirate raids and access to medical technology. What if we found a different way to get everyone what they need? The creative solution. For the next 4 days, Dr. Chen worked with barely any sleep. I know this because I monitored her quarters, worried she was about to cause a diplomatic disaster. Instead, I watched her coordinate with mineral surveyors, medical researchers, defense contractors, and cultural anthropologists from a dozen different species. When she called the next meeting, I was almost afraid to attend. Honored harmonist, Dr. Chen began, her suit pulsing in what I now recognized as respectful greeting patterns. We have a proposal. What if, instead of mining the ancestral asteroids, the Commonwealth conducted surveys to identify similar mineral compositions in uninhabited systems? We found 3 potential sites within acceptable travel distance. Vexnal's colors shifted to cautious yellow. That would take time. Resources. The Commonwealth wants immediate returns. The Commonwealth wants minerals, Dr. Chen corrected. But more than that, we want partners. Real partners, not just trading associates. So here's the full proposal. We help you establish a defense perimeter around the ancestral fields. In exchange, Vornathi navigators, who can perceive gravitational patterns humans cannot, help us map the new mining sites more efficiently. We share the medical technology you need, and you share your expertise in crystalline computing, which our scientists are very interested in. You would protect our dead? Vexnal asked, their color shifting to something I had never seen before, a shimmering rainbow that my translator could not interpret. We would honor them, Dr. Chen said simply. Because that's what partners do. The shift. The agreement was signed 2 days later. It was not the agreement anyone had planned for. It was better. More comprehensive. More beneficial to both sides. And it established a framework for cooperation that went far beyond simple trade. At the signing ceremony, Vexnal approached Dr. Chen privately. I was close enough to overhear. You are very strange for a human, the harmonist said, colors pulsing in warm gold tones. Strange how? Dr. Chen asked. We were told humans were aggressive. Impatient. Concerned only with their own advancement. Vexnal's color swirled thoughtfully. But you spent more time understanding us than promoting your own interests. Why? Dr. Chen smiled. Because my interests are served when everyone gets what they need. That's not weakness, that's strategy. Happy partners don't break agreements. Respective cultures don't become enemies. And when you actually listen to people, you usually find solutions that nobody had considered before. The warning. After the Vornathi delegation departed, I found Dr. Chen in the observation lounge, staring out at the stars. That was remarkable work, I admitted, settling my bulk into a nearby chair. I was wrong about you. You were cautious, she corrected. That's not wrong, that's professional. And honestly? I was terrified I would mess everything up. You seemed completely confident. That's called acting. She laughed. Inside, I was panicking the entire time. But my mentor taught me something important: everyone is making it up as they go along. The difference between success and failure is usually just the willingness to try. I considered this. Your approach is very different from standard diplomatic procedure. Probably because I'm not really a diplomat, Dr. Chen said. My background is in linguistics and cognitive psychology. I study how different minds communicate and understand each other. The diplomatic posting was, well, I think someone thought it would be good to try something different. It worked, I pointed out. This time. Her expression grew serious. But Kriltach, I need to tell you something. There's another situation developing. The Krenth hegemony is making territorial claims that could lead to war. They've refused all diplomatic contact, and the Council is preparing military options. My sensory clusters went rigid. The Krenth are impossible. They're a warrior culture that views negotiation as weakness. If they're refusing contact, then war is inevitable. Maybe, Dr. Chen said. Or maybe nobody has tried talking to them the right way. The impossible challenge. 2 days later, Dr. Chen submitted a formal request to the Diplomatic Council. She wanted to open direct communication channels with the Krenth hegemony. She wanted to attempt negotiations that every expert agreed were impossible. The council was split. Half thought she was insane. The other half thought she had proven herself with the Vornathi and deserved a chance. I cast the deciding vote in her favor. Not because I thought she would succeed, I gave her less than a 5% chance of survival, much less success. I voted for her because the alternative was war, and any chance of avoiding that was worth taking. You know what you're doing is incredibly dangerous, I told her as she prepared to leave for the Krenth border territories. I know, she said, packing her bags with that same calm confidence that had initially annoyed me so much. But here's the thing about humans, Kriltach. We're really, really good at surviving impossible situations. It's kind of our specialty. The Krenth have killed every diplomat sent to them for the past 50 years. Then I'll have to be better than every diplomat before me. She smiled, and I saw something in her eyes that I had not noticed before. Not arrogance. Not foolishness. But a kind of fierce determination that made me believe, just for a moment, that maybe humans were more dangerous than anyone had realized. Not because they were strong, but because they refused to accept that anything was impossible. The warrior's welcome. The Krenth homeworld was beautiful in a terrible way. Towering mountains of black stone, rivers of molten metal, and skies perpetually filled with ash from volcanic activity. This was a world that had tried to kill its inhabitants for millions of years, and the Krenth had responded by becoming unkillable. I accompanied Dr. Chen despite my better judgment. Someone needed to document what was about to happen, even if it ended in disaster. We landed at the only spaceport that would accept us, a military facility surrounded by enough weapons to destroy a small fleet. Krenth warriors lined the landing platform, massive beings covered in natural armor plating, each standing over 3 meters tall. Welcome to death, soft speakers, the lead warrior announced. I am war leader Thraknor. You have 1 hour to present your weakness words before we add your bodies to the mountain. Dr. Chen stepped off the transport ramp wearing light body armor and carrying no weapons. She looked tiny compared to the Krenth. Fragile. Completely outmatched. Then she did something that made every weapon on the platform swivel toward her. She laughed. War leader Thraknor, she said, still laughing, that is the worst intimidation speech I have ever heard. Welcome to death? Really? Did you practice that in front of a mirror? The silence was absolute. I was certain we were about to die. Then Thraknor's mandibles clacked together, the Krent equivalent of a smile. You mock me, human? You stand before death and make jokes? I stand before warriors, Dr. Chin corrected. Big difference. Death is passive, it just waits for you. Warriors make choices. And I'm betting you're smart enough to at least listen before you start the killing. The test of strength. Thraknor studied her for a long moment. You are either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. Come. We will see if your words are as bold as your attitude. We were led into the mountain itself, through tunnels carved by ancient lava flows. The Krent stronghold was built into the living rock, a fortress that had stood for 10,000 years and showed no signs of weakness. The war chamber was vast, with hundreds of Krent warriors filling the space. At the center was an arena, a circular platform surrounded by weapon racks and scoring panels. This is our way, Thraknor explained. Words alone are meaningless. To speak with the Krent, you must first prove you understand strength. You will fight. If you survive 5 minutes, we listen. If you die. He shrugged his massive shoulders. Then you were not worth listening to. I felt my sensory clusters nearly shut down in panic. This is barbaric. She is a diplomat, not a warrior. She cannot. I accept, Dr. Chin interrupted. I turned to her in horror. Have you lost your mind? They will kill you. Probably not, she said calmly, removing her diplomatic jacket. Underneath, she wore a fitted black shirt that revealed surprisingly defined muscles. They want to test me, not murder me. There's a difference. The difference is irrelevant if you end up dead. She smiled. Kriltach, trust me. I've got this. The unexpected strategy. Dr. Chen stepped into the arena. Her opponent was Corval, a young warrior who apparently had the least honor and therefore got the unfortunate job of fighting the weak human. Corval was twice her height and probably 10 times her mass. His natural armor could deflect plasma bolts. His strength could bend steel bars. He looked at Dr. Chen the way a boulder might look at an egg. Choose your weapon, Thraknor commanded. Dr. Chen surveyed the weapon racks. Plasma blades. Kinetic hammers. Energy staffs. Enough destructive power to level a building. She walked past all of them and picked up a simple wooden staff, the training weapon used for children. The arena erupted in laughter. The human chooses sticks, someone shouted. How appropriate. Dr. Chen ignored them. She took a stance in the center of the arena, staff held loosely in both hands, and waited. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Corval charged. It was like watching a mountain avalanche, pure unstoppable force. Dr. Chen waited until the last possible second, then moved. She did not try to block his charge. She did not try to match his strength. Instead, she simply was not there when he arrived. Corval's momentum carried him past her position, and as he went by, Dr. Chen's staff tapped him lightly on the back of his knee. The arena went quiet. Point to human, the scoring system announced. Corval spun around, confused and angry. He charged again, faster this time. Dr. Chen dodged again, this time tapping his ankle. Then his shoulder. Then his neck, always light touches, never trying to hurt, just proving she could reach vital points if she wanted to. 3 minutes passed. Corval was breathing heavily, frustrated by his inability to land a single blow. Dr. Chen looked like she was dancing. Then she did something remarkable. She stopped dodging and stood still. Corval, she called out. You're fighting the wrong battle. He paused, his confusion evident. What? You're trying to catch me because that's what you've been trained to do. Chase the fast enemy. Overpower the weak opponent. But look at the timer. 4 minutes, 20 seconds. I've already won. I survived. So now the question is, do you want to spend the next 40 seconds being embarrassed, or do you want to learn something? The lesson. The entire arena was silent. Thraknor leaned forward in his seat, his attention completely focused on the small human standing in his war chamber. What would you teach me, human? Corval asked, lowering his weapon slightly. That strength without wisdom is just violence, Dr. Chen said. You charged at me 8 times. Each time, I moved the same direction, to your left. You have a blind spot there, probably an old injury that never healed quite right. Any opponent who notices that can exploit it. Corval's eyes widened. How did you? I watched you walk into the arena. Your left side is slightly favored. You compensate well, but it's there. She lowered her staff. Warriors think about winning. Survivors think about understanding. I didn't beat you because I'm stronger. I beat you because I paid attention. The timer reached 5 minutes. The arena erupted in sound, not laughter this time, but something that might have been respect. Thraknor rose from his seat and descended to the arena floor. You have survived. Now we listen. Speak, human. Tell us what soft speakers want from the Krenth. The real negotiation. Dr. Chen set down her staff. The diplomatic council thinks you want war. They think you're making territorial claims because you're aggressive and expansionist. They're preparing military responses, planning defense strategies, and generally preparing to fight you. And this surprises you? Thraknor asked. We are warriors. War is our purpose. No, Dr. Chen said firmly. Survival is your purpose. War is just one tool for achieving it. But there are others. She pulled out a data pad and projected a holographic display. These are the territories you're claiming. At first glance, they look strategically valuable. But when you overlay geological surveys, something interesting appears. Every single system you want has rare minerals that are critical for medical treatment of Koresh's syndrome. The arena went absolutely silent. Koresh's syndrome, Dr. Chen continued, is a degenerative condition that affects Krenth juveniles. It's rare, but fatal. Your scientists have been searching for a cure for decades. These minerals could help synthesize a treatment. Thraknor's expression had shifted from amused contempt to something far more serious. How do you know this? Because I spent 6 weeks researching everything about Krenth biology, culture, and history. I studied your medical journals, your mining surveys, and your population statistics. And I found the pattern nobody else bothered to look for. She closed the display. You're not preparing for war. You're trying to save your children. The truth revealed. The council would never understand this, Thraknor said quietly. They see warriors. They see threat. They do not see fathers worried for their offspring. Then we change what they see, Dr. Chen replied. Here's my proposal. Instead of territorial claims, we establish a joint medical research initiative. The Commonwealth has the technology to synthesize these minerals. We don't need to mine the territories, we can create what you need. In exchange, Krenth warriors provide security for research stations in dangerous sectors. You get medicine for your children. We get protection. Everyone wins. And the council would agree to this? The council wants to avoid war. Give them a peaceful option that makes sense, and they'll take it. She paused. But I need something from you. I need you to stop the intimidation tactics. Stop threatening violence. Start communicating clearly. Because right now, everyone misunderstands you. And misunderstanding leads to war nobody actually wants. Thraknor was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, for generations, we have spoken only the language of strength because it was the only language others seemed to understand. We became what others expected us to be. Then maybe it's time to surprise them, Dr. Chen suggested. The Alliance. 3 weeks later, I stood in the Diplomatic Council chambers as Dr. Sarah Chen presented the Krenth Commonwealth Medical Initiative. The agreement was unprecedented, a warrior culture partnering with scientific institutions, sharing resources and expertise for mutual benefit. The council voted unanimously to approve it. After the session, I found Dr. Chen in her office, already working on her next assignment. "You did it again," I said. "You took an impossible situation and found a solution nobody else saw." "I just listened," she replied. "Really listened." Everyone was so busy seeing the Krenth as enemies that nobody asked why they were acting that way. Once you understand the why, the solution usually becomes obvious. The galaxy is fortunate to have you. She shook her head. The galaxy is fortunate that we're all finally learning to talk to each other. I'm just helping with translation. What's next for you? Dr. Chen pulled up a new file on her display. There's a situation developing in the Outer Rim. 3 species who have hated each other for 1,000 years. The Council thinks war is inevitable. And you think differently? She smiled that same confident smile that had initially worried me so much. I think that people who have been fighting for 1,000 years must be exhausted. They just need someone to show them a different path. The legacy. 6 months later, the Krenth Commonwealth Medical Initiative announced its first successful treatment for Koреш's syndrome. Krenth juveniles who would have died now had a future. And the Krenth, who had been feared as unstoppable warriors, were being recognized as protective parents who would do anything for their children. Dr. Chen attended the celebration ceremony on the Krenth homeworld. I watched as Thraknor presented her with a warrior's mark, an honor rarely given to outsiders. "You taught us something important, human," Thraknor said. "That strength comes in many forms. That words can be weapons. That understanding is sometimes braver than violence." "You taught me something too," Dr. Chen replied. "That every culture, no matter how different, wants the same basic things. Safety. Health. A future for their children. We just have different ways of pursuing those goals." As I watched this exchange, I realized something profound. Humanity had entered the galactic community less than a year ago. They had no natural armor, no telepathic abilities, no overwhelming physical advantages. Yet somehow, one human woman had prevented 2 wars, established 3 major diplomatic initiatives, and fundamentally changed how species communicated with each other. Not through force. Not through superior technology. But through the simple act of really listening and caring about what she heard. The galaxy had spent millennia assuming that power came from strength. Dr. Sarah Chen proved that the most powerful weapon of all was empathy. And that, I realized, was what made humanity truly dangerous. Not their potential for violence, but their capacity for connection. Their ability to find common ground where everyone else saw only differences. The Krenth were right about one thing: words could be weapons. But in the right hands, they could also be bridges. And Dr. Sarah Chen was building bridges that would shape the galaxy for generations to come.